This is Up for Debate, episode number 153, recorded 2019. This or That 6, Shaun's Asks. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this rapid-fire episode of Up for Debate on this beautiful July day. I am Shaun Jennings, joined as always by the man of the summer, Mr. Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
How are we doing there, Shaun? What are you doing with that football hat? We're in the middle of summer. Training camp isn't even started yet. It's July.
It has in mid to late July, Matt. We're already.
We are like the furthest possible point away from the football season. We are like on the dark side of the moon when it comes to football.
What do you want me to celebrate? Baseball?
Yes, America's pastime right here. Get out of town.
Well, you know, Matt, the good news is my first question's about sports because tonight we're doing This or That round 6. Can you believe we've done 6 of these? Yeah. It's one of our favorite segments we do once a year where we share this or that questions. They're really just random debate topics that we can talk about. And actually, Matt, this first one I'm so excited because I've thought of this one a while ago and I truly don't know what your answer is going to be. And I'm very curious as to what your answer is going to be.
Bring it on.
And it's in the world of sports. And the question is, fighting in non-combat sports, so excluding wrestling or boxing or MMA, I'm talking like brawling in hockey or in baseball. Is it an important historical piece of the fabric of the game or an outdated and dangerous tradition that has no place in 2019?
So you're talking like fighting like brawls or...
So hockey, I think, is probably the best example of this. But hockey, it's against the rules in hockey. You're technically not supposed to fight, but we just all accept it as part of the sport.
Oh,
even though technically by the rules, you should not be fighting.
Okay.
Same with baseball brawls. I mean, that's not that it's as common in hockey, but bench clearing is a thing in baseball.
It is. I don't see how it could ever go away. You know what I mean? I would err on the side of historical tradition that is a part of our game. That would be my response because I don't see how it would be something that could be regulated to the point where it would disappear forever. Because you're talking about human emotions.
I guess I should be more clear that compare it to football or basketball, where brawls do happen. It's not that they're 100% outlawed, but I feel like they are accepted in those sports to a degree. Certainly in hockey. You bring people on your team whose main goal it is to beat up the other guys, bruisers. It's part of it's fundamentally part of the game. It is much more of a
theme in hockey.
And even in baseball, if your pitcher hits your guy with the baseball, what you're supposed to do is fight him. I mean, that's
not always.
Well, but loosely. But you would argue
give him a dirty look.
It's part of the tradition of the game, where it's not in other sports. So what I'm saying is, should more be done? Because I think this is a real debate people are having.
Should more be done to crack down on the fighting?
Should we try and take this tradition of violence, maybe a strong word, but this tradition of brawling out of these non-fighting sports?
No, I don't think so. I think that, these are athletes. My whole thing, or a large thing that I rail against when I think about, or whenever I talk about baseball in particular, or major professional sports at large, usually is the fact that these athletes get paid ungodly sums of money, and sometimes they kind of look like they just don't give a shit. And when you have, not that I'm saying fighting is good, like that, I wouldn't encourage it, but it does seem like when the players fight, like it actually seems like they're actually, to a degree, they're involved in the game in a way that maybe for a long time they don't seem like they are. Like, You could have what would I rather see? A dugout full of like overpaid athletes that are like dogging it and milking it and just like ground ball after strikeout after ground ball, and they don't like really look like they care? Or would I rather see, the guys that go out there and get heated because they can't get a hit, they can't get hit off this pitcher. He hits one of them, and they charge the mound. I'd rather see that. I'd rather see there be some kind of fire lit. And actually, there is something to be said with the either the players that do brawl or the managers that get tossed from the game. Like they looks like they actually care, and it looks like they're willing to go to fight for their players, and it's a part. I think it's a part of the game. I don't think it can ever be regulated to the point where because at that point you're regulating human emotion and you're regulating passion, really. Like I think people are willing to take the whatever $3,000, $4,000 fine if it means they get to in that moment they get to release their anger at a pitcher or at another player in some way. So I don't think it'll ever go away. What I do think should go away from baseball. A lot of people say that this is part of the game, but I don't like the slides. I don't like the nasty slides, I should say. Like the illegitimate slides into plates. I don't really think that's part of the game. It's a low blow. Like it's really like a cheap kind of way to win. It's very dirty. I never really like the unclean slides. So if they want to regulate those some more, I don't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem when they made the famous Buster Posey rule, where the catcher can no longer collide with the catcher, and a lot of people felt like that was wrong. But it's saving a lot of catchers from very bad injuries. Players aren't allowed to collide with them anymore, and in those ways, I think it's a way to make the game safer. But nobody ever really got that hurt in a baseball brawl, in a skirmish. Like it never really. If you look back, there's never really been a major serious injury caused by a brawl. It's really just mostly words. Players usually are able to restrain the main combatants before it gets to be. I can't speak for other sports, but for baseball, before it gets to be too big of a deal. So that's my thoughts on that.
Matt, I could not disagree with you more.
Good.
I could not disagree with you more.
We're going to have this debate.
I think the way I think about it is, Matt, if you and I got into a brawl in the parking lot of Citi Field, we would go to jail for assault. But when two baseball players do it on a field, it's part of the game. And to me, that's bonkers, especially in a sport that's not, like you said, you want to see the guys showing passion. I couldn't agree with you more. You know how you show passion? You go and hit home runs. You go and score runs. You play good baseball.
But it's not that easy. It's not that easy. If every player could just will a home run, they would. But sometimes it just doesn't happen that way.
And I agree with you, but I don't think fighting solves anything. And really, this sort of this argument of mine really focuses, I guess, a little more on hockey just because it's more prevalent there. But, you say no one really gets hurt, and that's mostly true in baseball, but hockey, guys do get hurt. Guys get concussions. Guys get broken jaws. They actually fight. It's legitimate, and it's assault on the ice, but simply because it happens within the confine of a sport, it's somehow okay. And your argument that you can't really outlaw it out of the game, I challenge that, because if they in baseball, if they want to outlaw it, you start handing out multi-game, double-digit suspensions, these guys will stop doing it. If they were serious about stopping it. I don't think baseball is, because it's one of the few things that make good highlight reels and is kind of exciting about the game, and they don't want to shut that down, assuming nobody gets actually hurt. But in a sport like hockey, where players can be out for multiple games after fighting injuries, that doesn't add anything to the game itself. To me, it's something that they should seriously look at taking out of the game, because I think it's antiquated, and I just think it's something people don't want in 2019.
So the point that I disagree with you on here is where you say that they can regulate. I still don't. I fundamentally don't think they can regulate this out of the game, because look, if you go around handing out suspensions and handing out fines, I think you're going to have a problem with the players' union. I think the players' union is going to come out.
You think the players' union wants bench clearing brawls?
Yes, I think they don't want bench clearing brawls, but I think they want what the players want. And if the players want to fight,
But that's what I'm saying.
Fight.
When was the last time you saw a bench clearing brawl in football?
Bench clearing, it doesn't really happen in football
or in basketball.
I don't really watch basketball, so
very
I can't
rarely
really attest to that.
It has happened, but very rarely. The most famous is the the Malice in the Palace. Famously, Ron Artest goes up in the stands, starts fighting fans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they suspended him for a whole season. They suspended a bunch of those guys for a whole season, for 20 games. Guess what? It's never happened again. I definitely think if you want to, you can, because the way it works in hockey is two guys fight, they both get offsetting penalties, and there's really no penalty.
Right. So now see, with hockey, I'd imagine that actually, I think the NHL would have a real problem. You might disagree with me. You're going to disagree with me here. They'd have a real problem with fans. I think they'd start losing fans over it.
That's my thought.
I genuinely think that's what would happen.
I would love to
in
see
hockey.
polling.
I don't think you'd see that in other sports, but
I think public opinion is changing on that. Seriously, I'd love to see polling. I don't know the answer, Matt, and you might be right. I think if you compared people now to 20 years ago, I think more are in favor of getting rid of the fighting. And fighting is less common. I know I've read articles in the last couple of years because they track hockey fights. And the numbers are down. They're not fighting as much as they used to. It is a lesser part of the game today than it was.
I think it's worry over injuries. I think that's why they're not fighting as much.
That's part of it, but I also think
they're getting paid more now, so it's like,
but I don't
why risk an injury?
I don't think the fans want it though. Honestly, it doesn't. The baseball fights are exciting. I'm not going to challenge that. It's exciting. It's an exciting part of the game. But I think in hockey fights aren't exciting anymore because we live in a world of MMA and of all this other stuff where hockey, you go look at highlight reels of hockey fights these days, they're just not fun or interesting.
I think there's a difference between the fans that go to games and the fans that watch from home. I think the fans that watch from home, I could agree. And there are a lot more fans that watch from home than attend the games. But the fans that are in attendance, I think they're the ones that are screaming for blood in the moment. And I think they like to see fights. I think it's an interesting thing where somebody may not be a hockey fan at all, but maybe they just watch for the fights or something like that, or they get thrills. And there's probably less and less of those kind of people.
Hockey fights are boring. Like,
it might be a
serious.
way that it might be a way that brings people to hockey. Like
it's
maybe
not like a NASCAR car crash or something where it's like, oh, I can't take my eyes off it. Hockey fights are slow and boring most of the time because they're covered in pads.
Well, now they're just like hugging each other.
Yeah,
I think it really comes back to the fact not that they're afraid of punishment or recourse. They're afraid of getting hurt. I don't think they want to be hurt because injuries are already at their most prevalent in the game.
The game is played differently now where, like I said, you used to have big bruisers on your team and their only job was to go out and fight guys. And you don't play hockey like that anymore. You have young, fast guys who go out and score more goals than the other team. It's just not part of the game anymore like it used to be.
Well, what about self-regulation? I don't know much about hockey, but I do know that there's an unwritten code of self-regulation in the team, meaning, their lead, name a position in hockey. There's center, right? There's a center.
Sure.
Their center came out and clipped our left guard.
Sure.
I don't even know if that's a position, but yeah, like clotheslined him, leveled him. Okay. We're going to get the captain, who's the big guy, and we're going to get the captain to go out there, and he's going to start a fight with this guy to let him know not to mess with our guys.
It's the same in baseball, right?
Yeah.
Your pitcher pegged our guy, our pitcher's going to peg your guy.
Yeah, there's a certain, it depends on how that's handled nowadays. I mean, usually what happens is if some umpire, it's really an umpire by umpire basis. Like the league doesn't seem to take a strong stance on it. They let the umpires govern those situations. So you'll have there'll be some umpires that are known as like the no nonsense umpires, and they'll, as soon as a hits batsman occurs, they'll warn both bullpens, and they'll say the next hit batsman will result in a ejection.
Yeah.
Or you'll have the other guys that'll be more of the old school mindset where it's like, okay, well we'll allow the other team to get retribution. They'll hit one of their guys, and that'll be the end of it.
Move on. Yeah.
But the only thing is, I mean, it's really a calculated risk though, because whenever you hit a batter, that's a man on base. It's a free runner on base, so it could really backfire on you.
Well, but it's the same with the fight in hockey, right? And the power play and the penalty minutes. But
the fight usually equals out because
sometimes, not always.
Both participants usually go to the box?
If you throw a punch and you knock the guy down and he doesn't throw any punches on you, then it's kind of one-sided. But I think I think you're right, Matt. And what's great about hockey is it's a physical sport. I mean, you want to check somebody up against the glass? I'm all for that. That's part of the game. The problem I have is throwing a punch. Throwing a punch is not part of a game. It's just not. That doesn't happen in the course of a game. So
You don't
physical
really
contact is fine.
I don't know. But you don't really see that too much in baseball either. It's
No,
really
I
when
agree.
you have brawls or scuffles in baseball, it's just two guys yelling at each
And they're
other
shoving each other. And
and they're being held back. At the worst, probably shoving, but very rarely.
I
You
know.
do see it from time to time, but it's much more of a hockey centered issue, and football sometimes.
Yeah.
But there are other ways. There are other ways to regulate in baseball, like a hard tag or that seems to be a fairly common way to do it.
Sports are physical,
Things like
It's
that.
going to
Yeah.
happen. Matt, we've already used up half our time on the first question, so I'm going to force us to move on to the next one, which is the better non-contiguous United State, Alaska or Hawaii?
Good question. I have not been to either one.
Well, like
I'm gonna
most of
say-
us, uninformed opinions, that's what we do here.
I'm gonna say Alaska.
Okay, interesting. Why?
Let's say Alaska because it's enormous. It's the largest state.
True.
When you think about how much land is up there, and there's a good deal of biodiversity too that a lot of people don't know about. They think Alaska, oh, it must be cold. It must be like a frozen wilderness wasteland, but it is like a interesting biodiversity from what I've read about. Especially depending on the time of year you go, there could be warmer weather. There's a lot of untapped, uninhabited natural wilderness up there that I'd like to go to someday. Hawaii is, I don't know. I would also really like to go to Hawaii and explore Hawaii there, but it just seems like another island to me. And there's a lot of islands, but there's not many places like Alaska. So
Except Canada.
except for parts of Canada, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna play contrarian to you, and I'm gonna say Hawaii. Mainly because, yeah, Alaska is big, but as you mentioned, most of it's useless. So
I didn't say useless. I
that's
said
what I heard
wilderness.
you say.
Wilderness,
Undeveloped,
hiking and
aka
hunting.
useless. If we can't harness it for resources, then
Well, you
it's
can.
useless.
There's lots of oil. There's Alaska has I think the highest oil reserve in the country.
It's got
Oil and natural gas.
But we can't drill there because of the caribou, whatever. No, I think what's neat about Hawaii is that it's out in the middle of the damn ocean, but somehow we own it. That's what's neat about it. Like Alaska, sure, it's not connected, but it's close at least. Hawaii's just kind of out there, and it's weird that it's one of our states.
It's very far away. It's a lot farther away than many people think.
maps are
It's somehow a state. Yeah.
It's great, and it's also. I think if the issue I have is that Hawaii today is kind of lame because it's just so touristy and
Yes. I think it's gotten
so
very
crappy.
very touristy.
I think like the fundamental version, yeah, you want the cool island with the volcano and the trees and the birds and all the nice cool shit. Sounds awesome. Today, if you're like Shaun, you get to travel to one of the two of them. Which would I go to? Probably Hawaii, but Alaska's neat too. I don't know. It is a tough question.
I think we've gotten to the point where Alaska has become more exotic than Hawaii because of how untapped and untamed it is.
But that also means in another 20 or 30 years, Alaska is going to be very touristy, especially as it starts to melt and gets more green and is less crappy.
Fun fact, I don't know if you know this, but I almost took a job in Alaska.
I do know this. You've
Yes.
told me about this and with some odd requirements.
Yes, I attended a webinar and I read through an FAQ. I was all set and all ready to take a job in Alaska, in the Alaskan bush, nonetheless.
Oh my god!
And
Thank God you didn't do that.
what an adventure that would have been. Yeah, there was lots of caveats and things. My favorite one was probably, I mean, naturally, as anyone living in the bush would tell you, you have to have a spare generator hooked up to your car during the winter time to constantly run the engine so it won't freeze.
Mm-hmm.
You also have a lot of rampant alcoholism going on in the region
Yet
because
alcohol's illegal.
alcohol, right? So what they do though is they mix harmful chemicals and make essentially bathtub gin that can be very dangerous to consume. Um, and lastly, my favorite fact was they said don't they said be prepared to not be fully accepted into the community or tribe right away. They don't usually accept outsiders. Instead, you may be required to prove yourself with it, and usually this will occur between 3 and 4 months of living amongst the tribe in the Alaskan bush, the Inuit tribe, where they will invite you to attend a whale hunt. And if you accompany them on the whale hunt and help them catch a whale, then you will be part of their tribe forever.
On one hand, Matt, I'm so glad you didn't do it, but on the other hand, God, that would have been great. I would have
What an adventure.
I would have literally hired a camera crew to follow you. I would have called the National Geographic people and be like, "You guys got to get on this shit."
Yes. Oh, could you imagine? I just come back speaking fluent Inuit.
I can imagine the show right now where it's like, "Hey, I'm Matt. I'm a typical New Yorker, and I'm gonna go up and spend a year in Alaska in your Mets jersey
and the backwards hat.
Yo, where can I get a slice?
Hey, this even says Nathan's on
it. It's a real fish out of water tale. I love it.
Yes. Oh, that would have been.
Yo, you guys got Michelob? What? You don't?
Hey. The Nathans.
What do you mean milk's $11 a gallon? This place is crazy.
This is crazy. Yes.
I would pay good money for that.
It would have been quite I imagine it'd be like Dances with Wolves mixed with the Jersey Shore.
Now teaching in Hawaii, I don't know about that. I might pass on that.
Actually, Hawaii is I think they're pretty desperate for teachers right now. Only they're desperate for teachers because, like most of this country, they don't pay them well enough. Alaska, on the other hand, they offered a very nice stipend to work there.
Sure.
Because they're getting all that oil money. Literally, the federal government is paying grants for people to move to Alaska.
Yeah.
And
don't do it, Matt. Don't do it. Stay here. Stay here with the rest in real America with the rest of us.
Yeah, I think that ship may have sailed, but
Matt, let me ask you another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is better, card games or board games?
Which is better? Board games.
Okay.
Board games are better.
Why?
Card games, I think there's too finite. Like it seems like almost every card game I've played is a variation on the same two card games.
Yeah, the same mechanics, sure.
The same mechanic. Like you either have the card game where you have to get a set of particular cards to beat other people's hands, other people's sets, or there's the card game where you have to compete against a standard value like blackjack. And it seems like really the rest of the card games just kind of follow that script. Whereas board games, there's tons of things you can do with board games. Like, it's not just the same two board games. I would argue that there's a lot more variety. So that's why I would say board games are better.
You know, it is a tough question because it really is a pro-cons thing on both sides. What I would say in favor of card games against board games is board games have a board. I mean, that's really the problem. They're more expensive. They're larger.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is the financial aspect. Card games, if you just buy a deck of cards, you can play 80,000 different card games. The only problem is that they're all...
The mechanics are limited.
all just... The mechanics are limited, right.
Yeah, and you're right. There's only so much you can do with a deck of cards. But that being said, card games... I think board games are better on paper. Because I agree with you. I think you can do some more innovative stuff in board games. But I just think from a practicality standpoint, I think card games are better because of the freedom it allows you, both in terms of creating a game. And I will say, Matt, I think the reason there are so many similar card mechanics is because people are lazy. I honestly feel, and that's not to slam any card creators out there because I'm not pretending I'm good at it or it's easy. But I just think they see, like Cards Against Humanity, a mechanic the party card game where everyone plays a card against another card and whoever is the favorite wins. It worked for them really well, so everyone else copied them. I think that's really the issue. I think there can be innovative stuff in cards. It just happens more rarely. So I'm going to say cards. I think card games would be my pick. So I'll disagree with you there.
All right. Yeah, there are pros and cons. You can't do magic tricks with board games, I guess.
Or can you? Think about that. While you're thinking about that, Matt, my last question for this evening. Which makes the better snack, sweet or salty?
The best snack is a combination of both.
Wrong it. Oh, come on.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Stop that.
Of course it is. I love
the
caramel,
chocolate-covered
sea salt caramel. Oh, so good. Chocolate-covered pretzels. Yeah, no, I would say sweet. I'm not really a sweets person, but I wouldn't say I'm a salty person either. So
you're so salty.
Yeah, I would say this is probably sweet. What do you think?
Salty. Oh, you got to go salty all the way.
So
There's nothing better than
chips?
The pretzel is probably the perfect snack.
I hate pretzels.
Oh, come on.
Did you know that? I hate pretzels.
You know I love pretzels.
Hate pretzels.
My body
Never
is 60% pretzel.
I never liked pretzels.
Stop that.
Ever. I don't like popcorn either.
Popcorn's not good. I agree with you.
Not a fan of either one.
Popcorn's bad. But pretzels.
Nope.
It's salty toasty bread. Come on, Matt.
Don't like it. Never liked them.
But
never liked pretzels. I like the soft pretzels. I love soft.
That's like the crappiest kind of pretzel.
That's the best kind. A nice, warm, gooey, soft pretzel. But I never got into hard pretzels. Never.
What about a potato chip?
Yeah, I'm a fan of potato chips. Did you know that potato chips are much worse for your teeth than candy, than sugar?
Go on.
Because the potato chip has a tendency when it breaks down, the polysaccharides in the potato chip can get stuck to your teeth in a like a more adhesive way than sugars of like candy can. Candy sugar can be brushed off much easier than saccharine sugars, which you find in the potato chip.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. But I vouch for sweets.
Matt, I'm going to be honest with you.
Salts.
I don't like sweet snacks. I never eat them. I don't know anything about them.
Good choice. Reese's Pieces? Excellent choice. That's one of my big movie theater snacks. Go-tos is Reese's Pieces.
They're so good. And I will say, this might be controversial. Reese's Pieces are better than M&M's. Plain regular M&M's.
Depends on the day. Very much depends on the day.
No, when is it ever better? When is regular M&M? Regular M&M's are so boring.
A day by day, like really has to be. Yeah. I don't know. Best of all of them though is the peanut M&Ms. Can't beat the peanut M&Ms.
Okay, what would be your top 4 M&Ms?
Top 4 M&Ms. My number 1 is the plain.
Okay.
My number 2 is the peanut.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what was a game changer? Have you ever tried? They make they just started making
caramel.
No, I don't really care for the caramel ones.
I think they're weak.
Yeah. No, there was almond. Yeah. Almond M&Ms.
Yeah,
excellent. Those are probably the best ones. Fantastic. Coffee M&Ms are pretty good too.
I've never had coffee M&Ms.
I think they're like are they called coffee M&Ms? No, it might be
although they should do an espresso bean M&M.
Yeah, I that's what I thought. That might be. That's what I thought I was thinking of. Yeah, sense. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's toffee. I'm sorry, toffee.
Oh, toffee. Oh, I would like that. I like toffee.
Those are quite good. Yeah, quite good. I mean, they're a limited edition apparently,
but
a lot
of them are
good.
I know they've done. I would say I agree with you. Peanut, almond are great. Crispy. Have you ever done crispy?
Oh, the crispy. Yeah,
those are great. I'm a fan of those.
They are. I would get on board with those. How about the mini? The mini M&Ms are fun.
Nah, at that point, just give me a real M&M.
They're fun.
Have they ever done like a mix bag with like all of these in one bag?
No, I think they have some kind of vendetta, like some kind of
Rule against
contract
that? They
against
can't
that.
mix them?
The coconut M&Ms turned out to be very disappointing.
Yeah, there was wasn't there, didn't they do, I had a peppermint one.
They did. They did mint M&Ms.
And have they ever done a cherry filled?
Raspberry. They did a raspberry M&M.
Cherry filled Hershey
and a
Kisses
strawberry.
are good.
Hmm?
Cherry filled
Cherry
Hershey Kisses.
They are. They are really
Those
good.
are good.
And
Anyway.
the Godiva, not the Ghirardellis.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah,
Very
Ghirardelli.
big
I mean,
fan
come
of
on, that's a
those,
whole nother
yeah.
level. Matt, we got to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
A brief this or that, but we're going to be back next week with your questions, Matt. You're going to be asking me some this or that questions.
That's right.
So join us then as we trudge towards the end of this July. Until then, I'm Matt. I'm Shaun. He's Matt. We're wrapping it up. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another Up for Debate.